Hello everyone, my name is Gustavo Vargas Hakim, and I'm a master's student in artificial intelligence at the University of Veracruz in Mexico. I have had the pleasure to collaborate with Dr. Galvan, and I am here to present you a brief introduction to evolutionary computation. Evolution is a clear example of problem solving. Evolution has evolved life to the stage we know today. So we ask ourselves, can we use some sort of simulation of evolution to solve computational problems? For that, we have evolutionary computation, which is a prolific research field in computer science, and it's actually a subfield in artificial intelligence. It's a very interesting research work. With evolutionary computation, we can solve some of the following: optimization problems. We can do automatic programming and code generation. We can find solutions to complex problems via search. For games, and not only game playing, but actually for game content generation. And various aspects of machine learning can be enriched by evolutionary computation, and many more. Evolutionary computation was developed by these three gentlemen during the decade of the 60s. Each of them was working on different problems, and they had a different approach to the topic of evolutionary computation. And they all work with what we call evolutionary algorithms, which have the following characteristics. They are meta-heuristic algorithms, which mean that they can solve many problems without the need of changing a single heuristic function. They do not require any domain knowledge, meaning that they can be easily transferred from one problem to another. And they are bias-free because they don't need any assumption about the problem in order to solve it. And well, in general, the evolutionary algorithms, or the EAs, have the following template, which, by the way, is the same template as for the genetic algorithm, which was invented by Holland. We have a population of solutions in which each solution is a potential uh, solution to a problem we're trying to solve. And we have a fitness function. A fitness function is a measure that lets us know which individuals in the population are better than the others. And it's very close related to the problem we're trying to solve. We have a selection mechanism that in principle is going to take just the best individuals in the population to undertake crossover. After crossover, we're going to have an offspring, and this offspring is going to be subject to mutation. And finally, we're going to undertake a replacement mechanism so that we have a new population to repeat the process through several generations. And well, in the genetic algorithm, crossover is the most important operator. For example, if we have two parents represented by binary strings, we would just split the strings in some part to make some genetic exchange to perform crossover. So we have, for example, here, two offsprings. If one of these offspring are subject to a mutation, we're going to switch just one bit, for example, from 1 to 0 or to 0 to 1, and that's it. We have mutation. Remember that in the GA, crossover is the most important operation, while mutation is secondary. The evolution strategy is oftentimes called the simplest EA. It was proposed by Reichenberg, and if we look at the template, we will be working just with mutation, which is the most important component. The evolution strategies were originally intended for optimization problems with real numbers. So we have an individual which is a two-dimensional vector. A common mutation scheme is to apply the addition of a Gaussian noise to each of the variables in the individual. So we have a new offspring from it. And in a case we're working with just one individual, this evolution strategy will be called the 1+1 EE. But currently there are other versions that use an entire population. And a very interesting thing about the evolution strategies is that they were the first evolutionary algorithms to include some mechanism of auto-adjustment of parameters. For example, the mean and the standard deviation in the Gaussian noise don't need to always be 0 nor 0.1, can be automatically evolved during evolution. So this was a pretty interesting feature in this kind of algorithms. Evolutionary programming is the third paradigm and was invented by Fogel. It's called programming because it was intended to evolve finite state automata. And as you know, an automaton is a way of computation and can be seen as a program. It's very similar to evolution strategies in the sense that it doesn't use any selection nor crossover mechanism. We just have mutation. But in this case, crossover is completely forbidden because each individual in the population is considered to be from different species. So crossover does not make sense. In turn, we have several mutation operations. So we have a parent, and we're going to generate an offspring based on one of these list of potential mutations operators. And there's a fourth paradigm, which is a little bit more recent, and it's called genetic programming, or GP, which is very similar to the genetic algorithm. However, the representation is completely different. Instead of working with binary strings, we will have computational trees like this. And it's called programming because, for example, this tree can represent a very simple program, which is this very simple function. And think of this like, for example, if we change the nodes, instead of mathematical operations, we add, for example, Python code operations, we would be generating automatic code. It's very interesting and powerful. And as I mentioned, it has a similar template as the GA. So what's happening behind the scenes in evolutionary algorithms? What happens is that we're working with a bottom-up approach to problem solving. This means that we have pretty simple individuals, which are the members of the population, but when they work together along with the genetic operators of mutation and crossover, some sort of intelligent and interesting behavior starts to emerge. For example, in the GIF image in the middle, you can see these particles start to converge to what could be some sort of minimum function. A very interesting application that Dr. Rigoban and I have been working on is the clean energy production optimization. Imagine we have solar, natural gas, and wind power sources. These three sources have associated a cost, a carbon dioxide emissions rate, a certain amount of production power that can be generated through an hour. So we wanted to optimize this system based on these three sources. In this case, our case study was for the state of Oklahoma. And we have individuals represented by vectors of four variables, which are PG, the amount of power produced, HS and HWHG, which are the hours of operation of the three power sources. And this is called a multi-objective evolutionary problem because we're trying to optimize not just one, but three functions, which are in principle conflicting with each other. As you can imagine, if we want to minimize the costs and we want to minimize the emissions, these two objective functions are in conflict with the third one, which is the amount of power produced in 1 hour, for example. So these three functions are in conflict with each other. And if you're wondering what's a possible configuration for this problem, this is some solution that the algorithm found. For the month of May in 2022, we have this configuration. What is very interesting is that Hg, which is the number of hours for natural gas, is 240 hours, which was the minimum allowed value for this energy source, meaning that the algorithm can find configurations in which the emissions are reduced. As if we reduce the natural gas power source, we're going to be reducing at the same time the carbon dioxide emissions. So for this brief talk, that's it. We just reviewed a little bit of evolutionary computation, which is a very interesting approach to AI. We have seen how this approach takes inspiration from nature as a big and very powerful problem solver. And for the next video session, I want to talk to you about a very interesting area in AI, which is an overlapping of evolutionary computation and other popular field, which is deep learning. So this new topic is called neuroevolution, and I will be glad to present you this in the next session. So thank you very much for your attention. See you next time and have a great day.